Welcome to the Divine Radiance Project with your host, Stacey Turner, and co-host, Emma McDonald, where we share all about reclaiming your radiance as women in business, holistic health, money, mindset, and juggling it all around mum life. A place for women to learn about financial independence, entrepreneurship, and balance. From women who aren't scared to speak their mind and their truth. It's time to shine your brightest self and be the lighthouse.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Emma McDonald, and today I have an amazing human being here. I've actually not been following her for that long because sometimes the algorithms don't work in your favor. And when Mel, who is the founder of the Seed Cycle, she is a functional nutrition practitioner. She knows all her stuff. When I first saw this come up through Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, why have I not seen this before? She'll go through her story in a minute. I don't think her company has been around for ever and a day. Like, I do believe she's quite new, but I was like, this functional medicine, this is what we're about. This is something that when Stacey and I started this podcast, we wanted it to be about empowerment on all fronts, whether it be health, whether it be business, whether it be mum life, all of the things. And I think anything that we can bring to you who's listening, options of what you can do to better your health for your family in the long run. That doesn't always have to be supplement wise, like we're here for it, but also to talk about things not everyone's talking about because people should talk about it. So with no further ado, I am going to introduce Mel to you, and she's going to take us through her story. And then we're also going to have a chat about something that is close to my heart, which is how we help adolescents come into this world of forever changing hormones and cycles and womanhood, really. So thank you so much for being here. I'm absolutely stoked that you said yes.
Emma, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, take it away. I would love to hear about your journey.
Yeah, thank you. It all began in my teens and 20s, and I think my story is not unique. Many women I know experience the same thing, which is I fell into diet culture, and my whole mission in life, every thought was about losing weight. Like, I just wanted to be skinny and how not to eat, basically, because what happened with all the diets was it was all about restriction. And it was just years of this really unhealthy relationship with food and my body. And the more I tried to diet and a different diet, and I tried them all, the worse it got and the more weight I would put on, really. And then I got to my mid-20s, and I remember having this thought of, if I study nutrition, I'll learn how to lose weight. That was my only motive going in. I'm from Canberra, I had a really good public service job. I was managing service centres, and I look back now when I realise how just stressful that was, and being inside and the long hours, and it just was not for me, and it was contributing to the health issues I was having. And as I studied, my perspective shifted. I started to understand food as medicine. It was the first course I did was just a basic nutrition course, and it was very much still like macros, calories, like learning about nutrients and all that. I did learn a lot. And then I came across functional nutrition, and I remember reading the philosophy of functional nutrition, and that is of vitalism, and that our bodies have an innate intelligence, and given the right tools and resources, we can heal, adapt, and thrive. And for the first time, I started to understand that I had all the answers inside me, and I didn't need to read that diet book or follow that blog, go to others for advice on what I should be eating, that I can start to tune into my hunger and fullness. And the other thing that I just fell in love with when it came to functional nutrition is one of the first subjects was culture and traditions and its role in nutrition. My background's Croatian. Food is life. Food is how we celebrate. Food is how we pass on traditions. And I spent years going to family functions being like, don't look at food, don't look at food, try not to eat. Try. And it was like, I can actually embrace this food and cook these beautiful cakes that actually are made of butter and nuts and all these beautiful ingredients that I was trying not to have. And so that again was just another huge shift. And what I found then was, so my mindset had completely shifted and I was in the kitchen and I was cooking and preparing beautiful meals for myself, but my default was still, the thoughts running through my mind was still like, I need to lose weight, I need to be skinny. And no amount of study or could fix that really until I came across EFT tapping. So EFT stands for emotional freedom techniques, and it's a way of basically supporting your nervous system. It reduces cortisol. It's used by some of the world's leading trauma experts, but it also helps you get to the underlying core beliefs of the issues, right? And for me, it was I need to be skinny to be loved. So no wonder I spent so long trying to diet. And so I was able, through EFT, I was able to process and release that old belief and some of the memories and beliefs floating around food in my body. And that combination of the functional nutrition and EFT just changed my life. And then it was not long after I had my daughter, something else changed in me. And I was like, if I can birth a baby, I can do anything. I'm going to start a business.
Yes, I love that.
And so that's where I started a little clinic in Canberra called Functional Health Canberra. And I combined functional nutrition and EFT. And to be honest, in the beginning, it worked really well. And clients would say things to me like, I've seen every nutritionist and dietitian in Canberra, and no one's helped me like you have. And I was priding myself on this holistic approach, using food, using the EFT tapping for that emotional side of things. And then I hit this roadblock where I realized I was missing this huge piece, which was hormones, because I would have clients come back and be like, Mel, I was doing really well, and then PMS hit and I had cravings and anxiety, or Mel, I'm on the pill and I really don't want to be, but I'm so scared to get off, or I'm having hormonal acne breakouts, perimenopause. And so the more I was listening to my clients and their symptoms, it was like everything was pointing to hormones. And this was at a time where hormones weren't sexy. I feel like they're having their time now, but gut health, if you remember 8 or 9 years ago, maybe actually 8 years ago, so I like micro, and that was more trendy. I wasn't interested in hormones. Like, I didn't really even know much about my own menstrual cycle. I learned a little bit through my studies, but never really an interest. And so I really started researching out of necessity for my clients. And that's where I came across speed cycling. And yeah, like that just moved me into a whole new kind of space of, hold on, I'm seeing that if we focus on the hormones first for women, everything starts to get better. And I'm very much, I like to be efficient. I like not to overwhelm people. It's always, let's just start with one thing. Let's start with that keystone habit. So I changed the way and yes, we're still doing EFT, but rather than focusing on gut health and what foods can support your gut, it was like, it makes sense to focus on your hormones and your ovaries because they're producing the hormones. And so let's focus on supporting your hormones first. And I just saw it was just that missing puzzle piece for so many women.
Yeah, that's to have that story initially. Thank you so much for sharing. Obviously, you've probably said it 1,000 times, but working through that as women, that changing generational patterns to that diet culture is rife. And I think our generation is really trying to change it. It is there in the background, but to be able to offer your clients those to have options that doesn't just look like the normal model. Like, were you using the EFT in your appointments, your
Yeah,
consults?
absolutely.
Yeah.
EFT was a huge part of it. And then, and the rest of it was really around helping them connect with their intuition, mindful and intuitive eating. And a lot of the EFT was actually spent also around the diets and releasing some of that fear, particularly like in the 80s, we went through the low fat revolution. So it was like for a lot of clients, it was like helping them to understand that whole foods aren't the enemy and butter is not the enemy and
Carbs aren't the enemy.
carbs aren't the enemy. And so yeah, it was a lot of and really helping women get back into like understanding what their body needs and listening to their bodies. And that's where when seed cycling came in, it made so much sense because it was like seed cycle, and we can go into all this, but you need to understand your menstrual cycle and to understand and to have that body literacy of our menstrual cycle, which we weren't taught. Like I just thought menstrual cycles when I had my period. Like I didn't understand that this is this whole 28-day process that happens, and it's very different to a men's hormonal cycle. And so starting to teach that, and even just for myself, like I was like, I want to be confident and I want to have self-love and I want to do all these things, and I've gotten so far. But what I realized was I want all these things, but there's this whole part of me, which makes me a woman, that I don't like. I don't like having my period. I would have terrible migraines, but I just thought it was all just part of being a woman. I would get so moody, like to the point where I'd be so irritated and I would say, I just need to be locked up for a few days in a padded room and just so I don't hurt anyone or myself, because I'd be raging about nothing. And now I know that's a lot of that was because my body was not producing enough progesterone in the second half of my cycle, and my estrogen was too high in the first half. And even just for me, understanding my cycle and working with my cycle and really coming to the place now where it's like I have found that self-confidence and the self-love and everything that I was searching for, and the missing puzzle piece was for me was falling in love with my cycle, understanding my cycle, working with my cycle, rather than just being like, oh, that's just annoying part of being woman, which is also what we're taught, right?
That is how we're meant to look at it. Like women,
Yeah.
oh, she's just on a period again. Oh, yeah, roll your eyes, whatever. Like we're made to believe that it's actually not of benefit at all, really. You're okay, you can have a period, so you can probably carry a baby, cool. Being ashamed, like shame, I think, for specifically adolescents and coming into this womanhood needs to be spoken about more. And I did have the pleasure of interviewing Nat Kringudis the other day, and we were talking about birth control and the topic, which is quite, I guess, in the media at the moment, but it was more from a place of how can we educate these young women to not be shameful, but also to understand that it is a biological process that happens in your body on purpose. Like we are unique human beings, like women honestly can rule the world. And that puts pressure on the patriarchy to then diminish that energy of us, that we just become less than. And I think that rising above right now is what we are all about. Right. And having something functional, we can say here, before your cycle even starts, what can we do? So I'd love for you to keep that in mind. We did talk about how this is a passion of yours as well. Like, how can we educate mums that have 11, 12, 13-year-olds starting the process, or may have even started their period anyway, but what do you watch out for? What can be part of introducing seed cycling, or how we introduce seed cycling to young women, and the impact that can have?
Yeah, the first thing I'll always say to a mum is you got to lead by example. You really do. And I just love hearing this. Like I'll have customers come to me and they're seed cycling, and then they'll have this aha moment. They'll come and be like, it's working so well for me. Can I get my daughter on it? She's 14, she's just gotten her period, or I think she's just about to. And like my first reaction is always, yes, like what a beautiful introduction to food as medicine, to understanding their cycles, to living in abundance with food. Because like we spoke about diet culture, it's all about like, can't have dairy, can't have gluten, can't have refined sugar, and yes, sometimes those things we need to cut out for times, or we can't have. But when you focus on abundance, on what you can have and what foods are going to nourish me, what foods are going to support me, like even on an unconscious level, like how beautiful is that? And so it's interesting because then they'll go out and they'll organize the seeds for them, whether that's creating it themselves or buying the seed cycle products. And then sometimes they'll come back to me and go, Mel, they're just not taking it every day. I know you said they had to be consistent. And then again, I'll just say, just keep leading by example. Yeah, like teens might not be as consistent as you would like them to be, but just even that understanding and that knowing that they can come back to that. And then once they start to see those results as well, in terms of within the first month, customers will say, my skin feels really bright, I feel less bloated. And again, like that's, or we haven't actually gone into that yet, but we can go into the nutrients, like those beautiful fibers in the seeds. And I also, in my mind, I think, wow, this hopefully will mean that they don't have all those PMS symptoms, go to the GP and get put on the pill. Because, and Nat talks about this, when you're as hormonally mature as when you went on the pill. And if you were put on the pill at 16 when your cycle is still maturing, and then you go to get off it at 30, and then you're having all those symptoms or those struggles, people will say, I feel like I'm a teenager again. Well, yeah, you disrupted that maturing process. So this is where seed cycling just really excites me for girls as well, because it does help in terms of supporting estrogen, progesterone. And then we know that when those hormones are nice and balanced, we don't have those symptoms like the PMS, like the acne breakouts, which I'm just seeing so much of, like the heavy periods as well. And yes, it's complex, but like you were saying, it's a biological process, and we've got to give girls time for that cycle to mature.
Yeah. Yeah. And with food, it does enable things to be easier, because you can, for me, I would give this advice in clinic, and then I don't know, I think I stopped giving it for a while. Maybe the change of clientele that would come through, sometimes there's different waves, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an easy thing to add into your life. And for myself, I'm like, am I really going to go and buy those seeds and cut them up myself? Like, in this busy phase of my life, like, to have it done for you is honestly like a godsend.
That's where the product came from. So I had the clients that were seed cycling, I would teach them, you've got to go buy certified organic, you've got to grind them up, take these in this phase, these in this phase. And the clients that did it, it was incredible. It was that missing puzzle piece. They would experience, though, they would see the differences, like I was saying, in their skin, in their gut. They would notice my period came and I was fine. I didn't have that migraine. My periods are much more regular than they used to be. I had clients like that client who was trying to get off the pill, who got off the pill beautifully, and her cycle came back, and she was like, I was so terrified of my skin just going nuts. And it was fine. I don't know what I was worried about. I don't know if it was just fine because it was fine, or the seeds, but either way, like, amazing. But then I had a couple of clients who would come back, and every session I'd say, oh, how's everything going? And they would mention the hormone imbalance symptoms. And I would say, have you tried seed cycling? And they're like, Mel, it's all too hard. What seeds are they get? Every time I go to shops and I don't have a coffee grinder, and why do I have to grind them up? And I'd say, because we want your body to absorb the nutrients. And this is also what is used, this practice, and is used in the clinical, in the studies. We want to follow this process, because they'd be like, oh, can I just have all 4 seeds? Or I'm already having some pumpkin seed. And I'm like, no, we want to use this as a hormone modulation practice, and we want to use it as it's documented. And then I was like, what if I package it up for you? I'll grind them up, I'll deliver them to your door each month, and then you can just add it to your breakfast or your lunch. And that's where really it started. And so I ended up having certified organic seeds delivered to the house. I ended up buying all these NutriBullets.
Yes, babe.
I heard a kookaburra.
Okay, thank you.
That's a really special bird.
It is a special bird. Can you please go? Thank you so much.
Oh, she's so gorgeous.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, to take this isn't meant to sound nasty, but a lot of the time we want the easy option, don't we? We want to feel well. We want it the easiest kind of way we can get it. And if we're introducing something new, then yes, let's make it easy. So
Yeah.
honestly, you are a genius.
Oh, thank you. But in saying that, I do have I still really believe that we need to be in our kitchens as much as we can. And so even though I have made it easier, and we grind up the seeds so your body can absorb the nutrients, and we make sure they're fresh, and we do a lot of nutrient testing as well, and we make sure that the seeds are not rancid and have no heavy metals, and so we go to all that. We do all that for you, but I still want you in your kitchen. I want you creating a beautiful meal to put your seeds on top of. I want you creating bliss balls and brownies and biscuits and whole foods because I think this is what this cooking made us human. And I had a biochemist come to me and they said, I want to create a supplement out of the seeds and I want to help you. And so it's just easier for people. And my whole body just said no, because I was saying things like, we're going to extract the nutrients and then we're going to recreate it. and I just thought, I'm not smarter than nature. And I don't want to do that because, the feedback also is like I have all these supplements gathering dust in my cupboard, but seed cycling's so easy and I enjoy it and it fills me up and it feels nourishing and I'm creating beautiful meals for myself. And so, yeah, I love that it does bring convenience. And for people who are new to understanding their cycles, it's a lot to be like, have these seeds, grind them up. You've got to have these in this phase, these in this. So that's where I was able to simplify it and have it there on the containers. So you can go, okay, this is from day 1 to 14, and this is what this means. And this is day 15 to 28. So I have made it simpler, but I do want people creating beautiful meals for themselves. I think that's just so special.
Yeah, and the fact that you do now have 2 products that you can be in the kitchen to make, like biscuits and brownies. Like, honestly, where was I? Last week was in phase 2. So I made the biscuits. I was having that for breakfast with yogurt and some berries. And I was like, this is delicious. And then, no, phase 2.
Yeah, phase 2 is the biscuits. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, hang on, brain work. And then the brownies this week. I was like, again, genius. Like when you get your cycle, you always want something a bit chocolatey. Now you're doing it well using your food and loving your food and making it, and it can be warm and you can have it for breakfast or you can have it for dessert or whatever it might be. And I did hear, so I think maybe somewhere on Instagram you said there may have been a new product coming. So I'm very excited to see what that might be.
There is. I'm so excited. That's coming very soon. But yeah, I do want to make seed cycling as easy as possible and have lots of different ways that you can incorporate your seeds, because I never want someone to be like, oh, I got bored of it. I'm going to give you so many ways to seed cycle because it's just so powerful. And the biscuits and brownies that actually came from my sister-in-law, because she had just gotten off, and this was early days where I still wanted to test it, and she had just gotten off the pill and her skin was just terribly like angry around her chin and her period hadn't returned, and she was being really fussy with me when I was like, well, you can just add the seeds into a smoothie on top of a salad. She's, I don't think I'm going to like it. So that's when I was like, what if I hide it in a brownie like I do with my kids? Will you eat it then? And she's like, yes. So I made these brownies for phase 1, and I would work out the therapeutic dose to make sure she was getting the correct dosage. And I use raw cacao and almond meal and rapid zero sugar, which is the best sugar in my books in terms of unprocessed. And then I made biscuits in the second phase, and they're like Anzac biscuits, people say. And I use buckwheat flour, so they're like gluten-free. So you're getting this beautiful snack. And then also your seeds. So that's where it came from. And then it was, once I had the idea about the business, I was like, hold on, I can make this into a mix. And then you just add eggs and oil and bake it up yourself. And then you've got your snack sorted plus all the seeds.
Yeah, so good. Well, so when was this? How long has it taken you to get from that wanting to do it to having it in the market?
It was so quick. So I was doing it with my clients. Then my husband got involved and he was like, what are you up to? Because I was always doing something, like I had a course or an ebook, or like I was always up to, he's like, what are you up to now? And I said, I'm doing this thing for my clients. It's called seed cycling. I'm just packaging it up to make it easier. And he went away and did research on Google, and he came back and he said, there are thousands of people searching seed cycling every day on Google. I said, I know, it's such a good practice. It's helping my clients so much. He said, there's no one doing what you're doing in Australia, like a done for you solution. He said, this is a really good idea. Let's start another. He said it doesn't fit under Functional Health Canberra. Let's start another business. I'll help you out. Let's invest and let's go big with this. And that day, I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of this. I registered the business name. I opened up the bank account. I got the designer, I got the web developer, and we launched. Got all the approvals because at that stage I was doing it in my kitchen, and we launched within 3 months. And that first month, it just went nuts. Like I had naturopaths contacting, going, you've completely streamlined the process for me and my clients. How do I wholesale? I had people contacting saying, oh my goodness, I did this like 10 years ago. It helped me fall pregnant. My acupuncturist recommended it. Your products would have been so convenient then. And that was 2.5 years ago. Wow. And then from there, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. We ended up building a little factory in our house. We had a spare room because I couldn't keep, you have to do the deep clean. We ended up getting machines to bring up. And then from there, we ended up finding just the most perfect manufacturer in Queensland. And because that was something I was like, how do I even find someone? And I want it to be certified organic and gluten-free. And I want to make sure that it's not, we can't mass produce this. Like it needs to be made in small batches. We need to make sure that the seeds are fresh, and I don't want any wastage because that's really important. Like from the beginning, we always made sure that we had eco-friendly packaging and no waste. And yeah, then it was just so incredible how it worked out. Found this manufacturer and they took over last year, and I thought I'd have more time, but things just keep getting busier. But in saying that, it's just been so incredible because now we can really scale. I think we're in like 45 stores now, retail, like mixes of health food stores and skin clinics and naturopaths and eco spas. And really what I realized through all this, I love sharing seed cycling, but this bigger mission of teaching women that there are natural solutions, because I read something that really just hit home, and that was that in the 80s and 90s and still today, the only 2 solutions for hormone imbalance is a hysterectomy or the pill, and that is not good enough. And so really, I want to teach women that there are natural ways and that it isn't normal to have those symptoms. It's signs that your body, that there's an imbalance. And unfortunately, if you don't listen to those signs, that your body starts yelling louder, and that can lead to really serious conditions. And then also just the education part of that body literacy and understanding our cycles and working with our cycles. And so that's stigma of like period cycle. Actually, no, like now that I understand my cycle and work with my cycle, I'm more productive than I've ever been. Life is easier than it's ever been, and I'm doing so much more. And so teaching that and understanding that we are different in different phases. If we were having this conversation, I'm in my follicular phase, like I'm feeling really good and positive. Like if we're having this conversation in 10 days when I'm like past ovulation, it's harder. I won't feel as articulate. I'll be a bit more anxious, but that's okay, because that doesn't mean that if before I'd be like, oh, I should just quit and go back to the public service and I'm crap at this. But now I know this is just because that's the phase of my cycle. And the same when it comes to nutrition, and I'm craving more carbs. Yeah, because I'm in my second phase and my body needs more carbs. So no wonder that low carb diet didn't work and it would only last for a week. Or like the exercise that I was meant to do every day. I'm in my second half of my cycle, so that doesn't actually suit what my body needs. And it doesn't mean that I'm lazy or there's something wrong with me. It's just I need to work with my body. And so that has just been a game changer. And seed cycling is just such a beautiful introduction to that for so many women, to that body literacy and understanding our cycles.
Yeah, and being empowered about their own health, like that, just knowing what you can do and that there are options is just, that's the point. That's what we should have, and we should be able to work within week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. We are different human beings every week, because that's how our bodies run.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy.
I know, like this is like, why weren't we taught this? But also I think it's important to acknowledge it doesn't also have to be all or nothing. I think like seed cycling is a beautiful practice, but it might be in combination with working with your doctor, working with a naturopath, maybe medication if needs be. And because I'll have people say things like, I got some herbs from my naturopath, but I think I'm going to, or my herbalists, but I'm going to stop them and start seed cycling because if otherwise I won't know what's worked. And it's, you know what, I think the combination is going to work. We can be so black and white, and we want to know what was that one. And this is functional nutrition. It is that holistic approach, and it's never just one thing. It's usually that combination of all the things that then lead you on that path of healing.
Synergism, is that a word?
Yeah, I love that word.
Synergistic process of everything that you account for in the body. Like for me, to tell a little bit about my story in this, how I got brought seed cycling back in, is I had COVID, and I really have been suffering with long COVID, and it happens to be cyclical, which comes in around ovulation and before my period. And yes, I'm working on the immune side, but then I was like, when you're working holistically on the body, you're like, okay, well, chicken or egg, was it immune? Was it hormones? We know now lots of stuff is coming up around COVID and shifting hormones. And, that's a conversation for another day. But it's bringing the seed cycling in for the last 4 weeks has even shifted like my cycle. Like that's how quickly it worked. Yes, in conjunction with the immune regulation that I was doing, but all of the things, the fiber, the liver function, the bowels, all the things that make up you, and what then has that onflow from hormones. Like you can see a difference within a month. Some people are different. You may not get a perfect hormone shift. We say 3 months can be a very significant time to change hormones, because every week you're achieving something different. And in that week, so many things happen. So you need to give your body that chance to do it again and to do it again, and not have unrealistic expectations.
Oh, absolutely. We always say give it 3 months, and it's something you've got to do consistently. It's every day, the therapeutic dose. And you're right, like for me, for my migraines, it took longer. I think it was 4 or 5 months. And then I was to the point where I was like, maybe it's not going to help. And then it did. And really like your period's a reflection of the month. So I know if I've had a really stressful month, if I haven't been consistent with my seeds, if I haven't been taking great care of myself in my phases, then I notice like that migraine comes back, never as bad as it was, and a bit of that irritability. But I know then, okay, come on, get it together. And then that next month, I'll make sure that I am consistent with all my practices, and it pays off big time.
Yeah. What you have created is just so awesome. I am conscious of your time because I know how busy you must be. So there is a question that we generally ask all of our guests, and that is, if time and education or money weren't a barrier, what would you be doing?
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I'm in such a fortunate position where money isn't really a barrier, and we were able to, my husband has his own business and he does really well, and so we were able to invest. And I've always, even with functional health Canberra, it was always from wanting to help people, and we didn't need the income for my family, to support my family. And sometimes I think, I don't know if this is a great thing, because maybe if I needed the money to feed my family, I would be doing more, but it's actually such a beautiful place to run a business from. And it means that I'm doing what I want to be doing, and that is to educate and help people. So that's that question. And time as well, because this year my kids are at school full time. So I have more time than I have. And we got the manufacturer. And so again, it's really nice to have a little bit more of that space and be doing things like this. Like I can't see myself, this is what I dreamt of. I didn't actually even think to dream that high, but this is what I'd want to be doing. Exactly what we're doing, chatting about amazing things that can help people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like to have a job that you don't need a holiday from, I think it's everyone's dream.
Yeah,
right?
It's so true. Yeah.
If you had any advice for anyone that wanted to start a business of their own, what would be something that you've learned that you would like to pass on?
I've always done things before I'm ready. Like I said yes to my first client before I even had a space. And I sort of said yes. And then I was like, let's figure out where we're going to meet. I'll let you know. Even with the seed cycle, it was like a yes before we launched the Instagram before we had anything. And it was, so I've never been like sit down business plan, work through everything. Like now we do a bit more of that because my husband's more involved and he's really good at the planning side of things because there have been mistakes. But in saying that, it's just, I think that's why I've been able to do so much so quickly, because I'm an action taker. And the other thing I do is I would suggest doing the work, like the personal work. If there's fear, for me, like it was a belief of not smart enough. And even now things will pop up and I go and I book in with my practitioner, or I'll go see my kinesiologist, or I'll do a meditation and I'll work through those beliefs, because they're the biggest blocks. Like I say all the time, I feel like the universe has the seed cycles back and sometimes I'm getting in the way and so I just make sure I'm always doing the work so I'm not in the way.
Yeah, that's soul led.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is all for today. Thank you so much again for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you and so inspiring. Where is the best place that people can find you, actually, before we go?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think our website, so it's theseedcycle.com.au. We have so many resources on there, from a quiz to learn if seed cycling is right for you, to a cyclical cookbook, to a seed cycle downloadable tracker, to lots of blogs and recipes. And then Instagram as well. We share lots of information and customers' stories and behind the scenes.
Yeah. Oh, that works too. Yeah.
The business side of things as well, which is really fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So the seed cycle on Instagram is definitely where you can get so much information as well, and then obviously the link through the website. So thank you for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Listen, if you loved what you heard here today, I would love for you to leave a super quick rating and a review. This helps the show get discovered by new people that need to hear what we have to share. Be sure to take a screenshot of today's episode and shout us out on Instagram, and we will shout you right back. You can find us on Instagram handles It's Stacey Turner and the.emma.mcdonald. If you'd like to find additional resources or work with either of us, then DM us on one of these handles today.